Now, in global business, the AI chip maker NVIDIA hit a landmark on Thursday to become the first public company worth $4 trillion after its stock ended the day trading just above $164 a share. It's achieved the milestone before an array of better-known tech heavyweights, including Apple and Microsoft. NVIDIA's rise is among the fastest in Wall Street history and a testament to investors' belief that artificial intelligence will deliver an economic transformation that rivals that of the Industrial Revolution. And now to our discussion segment. In a major policy shift, the United Kingdom recently lifted tariffs on about 3,000 products from developing countries, including Nigeria, under its Developing Countries Trading Scheme, DCTS. The DCTS, which replaced the UK's generalized scheme of preferences, aims to simplify trade rules and boost trade with developing nations. Now, this opens new doors for Nigerian agricultural producers and exporters, particularly in high-value commodities like tubers, grains, and spices. But how can Nigeria fully take advantage of this opportunity to boost exports and more foreign exchange and ensure product acceptability under international standards? Well, joining us to explore this is Dr. Goswill Egbe, Chairman, Board of Directors, Seed and Tubers Agrovac International Limited. You're welcome to Business Express, sir.
Thank you.
Great. Now, let's start this week. What is the current demand-supply outlook for agricultural produce in the UK market, especially regarding products that Nigeria can competitively offer?
Okay, thank you. Let's look at the demand in its own understanding. We are talking about supplies that meet effective demand. That is the supply that citizens are willing and have the capacity to consume or to buy. Looking at the issues around demand, you look at the high consumer expectations because generally the goods and the agro products that can be demanded in terms of demand, that means the willingness and ability to take up those goods, agro products. You know, there's high expectation in terms of consumer expectation, value propositions, and talk about high quality organic products. Talk about the meeting of specifications in terms of what can actually be demanded because it has to meet the specifications. Okay, and talk about fresh produce because what the consumer will actually demand with this effective willingness and ability to procure is that it means that freshness and environmental accountability because it's a regulated environment. So the demand side of it will require those goods that meet those expectations. And that's exactly what it is. And then look at the changing diets. We look at the mix of populations in terms of the mix of cultures, the mix of populations, interactions, in terms of many races from across the globe coming, having their livelihood in the UK. So there are changes in diets. There are traditional diets in the UK that are beginning to shift in terms of culture mix, culture interactions. So that's where you have the demand has shifted also to African goods, so to say, and that comes to, in particular, Nigeria, because Nigeria also plays a significant role in terms of the supply push into the UK for agro products.
Right. The UK's Developing Countries Trading Scheme, launched in 2023, now allows over 3,000 Nigerian products, including key agricultural commodities like cocoa and cashew, to enter the UK duty-free or at reduced tariffs. How will this help Nigerian exporters, particularly those in the agricultural sector like yours?
Okay. You see, tariff only is going to resonate in terms of profitability or increase in your margin. So that's what tariff will do. Tariff is not going to deal with the other consumption or the value proposition side of agricultural products, but it's going to impact on your margin. So what is going to resonate is in terms of more people will want to participate, because the margin in terms of your margin in terms of cost of trade and the overall return in terms of your investment to export will increase. So that will encourage more people in terms of more population of Nigerians to get involved. But then we need to look at the awareness. This information, how have we deepened the knowledge base in terms of our population, what number of people, how many percentage of population are really aware that there's a tariff change. So that's where NTA comes into play. What you're doing is excellent, because you're bringing this to be a useful information to majority of Nigerians, and I encourage more youth and women, especially in the rural communities. From what you're doing now, it means you're taking it right on time. It's just something that happened and you're bringing it to the Nigerian population to know. So good, let more people, more youth, more women in rural communities, they should get involved to know that export is open in terms of, but to meet the regulations anyway. So it's open to people to export and also to add to what the call from the governance structure of Nigeria is saying we need to expand more corridors of our forex income. So I mean, that's what it's going to be, with the expectation of more margin in terms of your unit of export, more people will get involved.
All right, your company, Seed and Tubers Agrovac International Limited, focuses on seeds and tubers, which are critical to Nigeria's agricultural sector. Now, with commodities like cocoa, sesame now enjoying zero tariffs, what specific opportunities do you see for agribusinesses and exporters, and how can they better position themselves to maximize earnings in foreign currency?
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, it links to the other question, you see, the importance of lifting tariff, like I said, it resonates in terms of profitability. Now, in terms of margin, so let Nigerians more of, if we have cooperatives in the rural communities, the people who are handling agricultural projects, they should take this information, try to widen the reach, try to deepen the reach of this information, try to get more organized groups, especially women, whom they get more involved in agriculture, and tell them that they can earn foreign income. Let me tell you something, my experience in Ghana as working under Connexus with USAID, as United States Agency for International Development. I try to understand why almost every rural farmer exports. And it's because they make it important that their communities understand that you can export. You may not do it alone. You join a cooperative, and that cooperative will walk through the banks, and that was taking the agricultural risk, portfolio risk management. So I understand that the commercial banks, regional banks, microfinance banks, they all give out loans, and all these will take these loans at high percentage, and they pay back because they were exporting to the UK. Every of the farmers that I have taught in terms of my engagement with all the segments, disaggregated bank structures, they were giving out facilities, and rural communities were taking it. Farmers that you can't imagine, with one plot of land, farmers as low as farming on one plot of land, what they do is they submit to aggregators package it and export it, and they earn foreign exchange. And so that is the kind of thing that this will pertain to Nigerians. We have farmers that do sesame, we have farmers that do ginger, we have farmers that do cashew nuts, we have farmers that do vegetables. And you know that vegetables, a lot in African restaurants in the UK, a lot of them need vegetables. As simple as we call your onubu. I mean, if you go to there, you see that onubu is in high demand. Ogo vegetable is in high demand. And other our traditional vegetables, they are in high demand. So with the tariff open, you can see that the ordinary person farming 2 acres can actually key into a cooperative, submit their agricultural produce, and it's exported. You earn foreign exchange, foreign income. And it's expanding our corridors of non-oil FX income. So that's what that is going to happen, going to encourage.
Great. Now, the UK market is known for its stringent quality and regulatory standards. For Nigerian exporters, especially in agriculture, meeting these standards can be a challenge. Now, what quality standards and regulatory guidelines must Nigerian exporters meet to be able to avoid rejection at UK borders?
Okay, without going into the basic specifics in terms of, like, we have your NAFDAC in Nigeria, the UK, they have their own food security that deal with the regulation of what comes in. But let's use common sense here instead of going to more of the representing the agencies that are responsible to regulate what comes into the UK. But the common standard is one, it has to meet the environmental standard, it has to be well packaged to the standard of packaging that is required, it has to be free from existence of certain pests, and moisture test has to be done. And these are the things that, for example, let's take ginger, for example. For you to export ginger, you have to do the moisture test. You have to be certain that it's free from aflatoxin. If you want to export something like granite, you have to be sure that it's free from aflatoxin, and that is why the IATA researched and brought AfloSafe. So if you have to do fluoration for your farm, you use AfloSafe, and that will reduce the level of aflatoxin that can, hamper your export acceptance. So these are some few regulations without going to the specifics or the detailing, because that is left for the regulators in the UK. They have their food standard regulators. But common sense will tell you that. And also, I advise anybody who wants to get into export to also have some education, from the appropriate quarters like the Nigerian Quarantine Agency. They will help you to make sure that you meet the standards. When you go to seminars and you know the packaging requirements, and then we talk about logistics. If it's something that needs certain level of temperature before it gets to the containerization, you need to understand that these things must be transported locally, first of all, within the correct temperature, correct environment. So those are the environmental accountability they are talking about. Once you meet environmental accountability, I think you meet the standard. But it's proper to take proper education from Nigerian Quarantine Agency for Export.
Now let's talk about infrastructure. While this tariff relief is exciting, Nigerian exporters, we all know, have faced challenges like infrastructure bottlenecks and supply chain issues. Like in the first quarter of 2025, Nigeria spent 350 million on electricity subsidies alone, according to NEC, highlighting energy sector constraints that affect production. So what, critical infrastructure do you think, Nigeria must put in place to scale up its exports under this new UK tariff arrangement?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, once we come to Nigeria to discuss infrastructure, the expectation is to say, oh, we don't have good roads, you know that. The expectation is to say we don't have steady energy supply, we know that. You see, but there are the other ones that we should leverage on, which is the regulatory part of it. The infrastructure we are talking about, if we can have feeder roads that allow the farmers to bring their agricultural products to farm gates where aggregators can deal with it. But let's even take a proper analysis so that we don't look at the constraints for what has happened that will encourage people. In every business, there is what is called the cost of production. And I tell you that even as we have bad roads, seemingly, we have poor, steady energy supply, okay? But then you have alternatives. I'm not saying that poor infrastructure provision is to be celebrated, but I'm saying that a business person shouldn't look at only complaining about those infrastructures that are in deficit, but we look at how we can succeed. The problem with business is they are easily saying why things will happen. But I want Nigerians to be optimistic, let them find how things will happen. So, and there are many how things will happen if you look at it. In Nigeria, it's a good environment to do business, and how you see it. So if somebody is in agro production and wants to export, you put it into your cost of production, the cost of bringing the goods from farm to farm gates, and there's an aggregator. So it's when you want to do everything in the agricultural value chain, you start from the input suppliers to the primary producers, and then you talk about the logistics, you talk about the processing, you talk about the market linkages. So you have to be in one place. If you are like Seed and Tuber Agrovac International Limited, we want to resident our business in processing and agro-logistics and market linkages. So these three things, we'll focus on it. So if you focus on it, when it gets to your own, as an actor in the agricultural value chain, you know your cost. So the final market linkage actor will put all of those things into his cost and see whether the business is worth doing. The important thing is to find how it is done, and not to constraints of infrastructure. Of course, we know them, but we are also not seeing that we have the gift of nature. I mean, we have land, we have rainfall, we have good sunshine, we have good soil, fertile soil. Let's look at that side. These are God-given infrastructures. Let's not look at the deficit. Deficits are actually in the minority compared to the God-given basic environment to do what we need to do.
So, Doc, how prepared are local producers, particularly smallholder farmers and cooperatives, to meet the volume and the quality expectations of UK buyers? Very briefly, sir.
Yeah, in terms of quality requirements, yeah, like I said, people need proper education in terms of applying GAP, good agronomic practices, and that standard is universal. There is, if you want to apply fertilizers, you have to do the timing properly. If you want to apply aflatoxin for aflatoxin, you have to do the sporulation on time. It has timing. You have to understand the agri-calendar. You have to understand seasonality. You have to understand in each agricultural product or crop you want to plant, or whether it's in livestock, there are rules, and that is called good agronomic practices. So our rural community should know that. And that's where I have to call on the local government authorities to deepen the proper information to deal with good agronomic practices to rural community, especially the young graduates in farming and women that are mostly in farming. We need to help them to get proper knowledge.
All right, Dr. Godswill Egbe, we appreciate your perspective. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you so much.
Moving on, oil prices were stable on Friday.